Good morning. Well, listen, if people could put their name and organization in the chat, that just helps us keep track of who's here. So we really appreciate that. I'm Tamara Smith. I'm the co-chair of the steering committee, along with Kim Ford from Martha's Table. We have an amazing leadership team with Mustafa, Dr. Adams, and David Palms, and we've got amazing partners with Dr. Cook and all the steering committee members. And this work is done really because of you and in partnership with you. We've got Kim Russo from GW Hospital who's joining us. Good morning, Kim. We'll have her on the agenda. We're going to have Dr. Cook talking about the steering committee members and where we're going with that, and a kickoff meeting coming up very soon. We have, I believe, David talking about a status on the planning, and I'm sure Mustafa and Dr. Adams will both be giving some operational updates on things that are happening. So we have a very exciting agenda today. We want to be respectful of your time on a Friday before a holiday. Safe travels to anyone who is traveling. I hope you get to have some enjoyment over the long weekend. I'm celebrating a birthday, so I'm always happy to be thankful to be alive and still.
Well, happy birthday, Tamara. Happy birthday.
I'm pushing up daisies. Thank you.
When is your birthday?
So yeah.
When is the birthday?
Oh, I had it yesterday. Yeah. So
it
usually coincides with the long weekend. This year is a little earlier.
Mine is Sunday.
Thank you. Wow.
Happy birthday.
Gemini.
Happy birthday, Denise. All right.
All right.
Cool. I apologize for the background noise at my house. But I think what I just want to do is welcome you all again. We've got a number of people at the table today. I want to just thank everyone for their participation and their engagement. This work is really moving along at an exciting pace. And we couldn't do it without all of you and the many efforts of, as I said, the leadership team and partners at the table. In terms of an agenda, I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to turn it over to Mustafa. I think we're going to have Dr. Cook start first, and then Kim, we will have you give up an update on the hospitals, if that works. Okay, so Mustafa, I am going to turn that right on over to you.
Thanks, Kim, and happy belated birthday. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you. So we have the agenda up, and what we're going to do is go through the activity reports updates so that everybody know what's going on. And then we have, as Tamara said, we have Ms. Russo from GW Hospital here, and she's going to share with her update. And then we're going to close it out with some questions and answers and get everybody out here on time. So let me just say it again. May is the first month of really implementing the planning process. This is our first full month. April, we're really just getting things in place. So our numbers are really going to be more accurate, reflecting on what went on in the month. And we have a outreach report that we're going to be giving. The data collection, been some really exciting things going on, and Dave is going to update with that. And we're in the process of really putting that in place. So moving in the right direction with that. And then Professor Cook from Georgetown Law School is going to update it on the last report he gave last month about the subcommittee. So we're getting ready to implement that. So we're talking about a year from now having a written plan for Ward 8 economic development strategy. And so we're on target. The timelines that we're looking at are good. And we feel comfortable that we have the support and the resources, and new resources are coming in every day in support of what we're doing. So we're excited that more people and more organizations want to partner with us. We see that as being an ongoing part. And again, the core of what we're doing is to really look at community economic development from the bottom up. Our measurements of how we impact the at-risk and in-crisis population in Ward 8. If there's no movement there, then the question is, what are we doing differently? And we really want to focus on community wealth building, both individually and collectively. So everything we're doing is to try to get to a point where we can speak to those issues in a planning document that we can share with the mayor and other key stakeholders in the district. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Adams to give us an update on the outreach?
Yes, thank you, Mustafa. Did you want to mention something about the meeting with the mayor's office?
Well, that's forthcoming. We're still
Okay.
talking to, yeah, and hopefully the goal is to have the mayor be at one of our steering committee meetings in the very near future. So hopefully, maybe if not in June, sometime after.
Excellent, excellent. So just as an outreach report for resident engagement, just want to remind people about the website is W8CED, Ward 8 Community Economic Development.com. So far, we've had about 247 people sign up for training, and 29 have gone through at least a portion of the training. And we've got about 150 people signed up for our subcommittee. So this is all data coming directly from the website. We are still doing our social media engagement. We're asking you to please remember to like our pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search W8CED. We've got about 433 Facebook page likes so far, and we're hovering around about 12,000 organic engagement. Some of the things we're doing on the street, we had about 18 signups for our MLK Day. We're going to be joining Kim Ford at Martha's Table, along with partnering with Urban League on Juneteenth for Father's Day. We're also working with the Office of Planning to do the youth forum for the Congress Heights Small Area Plan. We're creating a depository for all info on, and there'll be a link on the website. So anything that we do in terms of our presentations or these meetings, you'll be able to, and as well as the data collection meetings, you'll be able to just go to a link and see everything. We can't put it all on the website, but we'll be able to link to it so that you'll be able to anyone could just go back and see all the progress that we've made and all the things we've accomplished. We did send out the State of Ward 8 Spring newsletter. And so if you did not get your copy, please put your name in the chat. We'll make sure you get a copy of that. Just as an aside, I posted just the name, in Facebook. Did you get your copy of the State of Ward 8? And so many people reached out with their email address asking that it would be sent to them, which I think is pretty impressive, given the fact that people are very close to their heart with their email addresses. We also have a ANC outreach meeting plan for the very near future. So we're working on that with the outreach team, which includes ACC and Empower C. Next up, we have David Palm.
Yeah. Dave, if you can update the presentation. Before you start, I just want to reiterate that if you're not signed into the website, you really need to go, because that's how we're capturing information, and that includes steering committee members, particularly them, because more than likely, if you haven't signed up, you're not in the loop. So please, steering committee members, and we're asking that all steering committee members sign up for at least one of the subcommittees. You have the option to sign up for more, but we're asking each. Tamara and Calvin Smith are gonna co-facilitate the health subcommittee, and Kim has committed herself to co-facilitate the workforce development committee. So we need the rest of the steering committee members just to identify what subcommittee they would like to co-facilitators, and we're going to have both steering committee co-facilitators, resident co-facilitators. So we're recruiting residents to be co-facilitators also, and Professor Cook would talk a little more about that in his update. So Dave, are you on? Can you share the report?
Yeah, I'll be quick. And good morning, everyone. David Pons with the Primary Care Association. I am speaking to the Data Collection Committee as I have in previous meetings, but I'll mention we have a couple of committee co-chairs now, Dr. Portia Hemphill, who, if you've been on a data collection committee, you've met her. I'm not sure if she's here today. And then we also have recently recruited members of the DC Health Matters Collaborative to participate and help chair this committee. The good news on that front, if you're not familiar, the Health Matters Collaborative is an association of nonprofit hospitals and health centers in the city who are required to do a community health needs assessment every 3 years. They've agreed to support the survey that we do as part of their key CHNA activities, needs assessment activities. So it comes with some support and resources from, among others, Children's Hospital, Howard Hospital, Sibley Hospital, other health centers, but particularly support from the folks who are associated with the Health Matters Collaborative, who are going to be doing some of the survey and analysis right alongside with us and helping to organize that. So that's good news on that front, helps provide us with some resources. So we're anticipating we'll have more. We want to start doing data collection in July with the survey. So we anticipate starting with an online survey, which will circulate and do a lot of support work to support you all in promoting it and sharing it with your constituencies. And yeah, I think I'll stop there unless there's anything in particular, Mustafa, you think I should add.
Is Amber online? Do you know?
No, I don't think she is. I think she couldn't make this one, but we have Amber Reiki, who is the external director for Health Matters, as well as Dr. Pamela Carter-Nolan, who is with the Howard Public Health Program and is representing Howard in the Health Matters Collaborative, and then a few others.
Yeah, and if you could just take a couple of minutes, because I really think it's a big deal in the sense of their desire to work with us and recognizing, what we're doing from an asset process is so important to the district, not only Ward 8. So can you just give a little more sense of why it is such a big deal that they want to partner with us?
Yeah, I think the strategy that we've been focused on with our data collection committee has been to try to come up with a framework for measurement that can be useful in the subcommittee work, that can be part of how the various institutions that are part of this project can be tied in and committed to specific goals that are part of the larger plan that we're putting together to really evaluate and hold folks accountable for that progress over time. And what the Health Matters Collaborative is going to do is really help us ensure that the survey and the strategy that we go about to do the data collection is valid, that they're coming with some resources, some investment to make sure that survey process works well. Sorry, I'm just adding folks into the room at the same time. And I think what we're looking at here, and it's not just them, it's a lot of other partners who are working in the health system, the Office of Health Equity and Council Office of Racial Equity, who are looking at, what are the equity measures that we need to be mindful of. And I think we've got a framework that the Health Matters folks are investing in, that Dr. Hemphill is excited about, to really tie in the health system to support a lot of the community development activities that we think are so necessary, and to put a framework around what that could look like. So that's the significance, that community health needs assessment work becomes very important to the broader health system and public health policy planning. So I think that's what the significance of it is.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And I just want to reiterate that the uniqueness of this planning process is that there is such a significant attempt to link healthcare and economic development in ways that we normally don't see that, and that we're looking to measure it. So because that makes what we're doing much more holistic than separating the two, which we normally do. So I appreciate the work you're doing, Dave, and the support that's coming in. Even though we're putting emphasis on data collection, we're not data collected driven. This really is an effort, an attempt to give the community a voice, and we see the data collection and our ability to analyze the data and come up with our priorities and recommendations as the core of giving the community the voice that they have not had. So we're in an excellent position, and I think what we're creating is a model that has implications, just beyond Ward 8, I think other neighborhoods and wards in Ward 8 can benefit from what we're doing, and even on a national level, I think other communities can also see the benefit of our efforts. So I want to turn it over to Professor Cook because the subcommittees are like our final piece coming on board, and it is a real opportunity to make sure that we have broad participation beyond just what we're doing survey-wise and who's going through training. And the subcommittees are designed to get as many of the residents engaged in this process as possible as participants, but also as leaders in those areas. So Professor Cook, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mustafa. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. Just to reiterate something that Mustafa said about how this process is, very substantively and primarily about giving voice to residents. So many community planning processes either kind of fail, fall apart, or are successful, but are kind of put on a shelf, for no one to really take action on, because the process of building, consensus and trust and organizing is not, an integral part of the process. This process takes community organizing seriously. It takes, trying to listen to and act on the voices and understandings of residents, seriously, in both the way it is structured and the way that it is executed. So, at the end of this process, when we have a report or we have a plan, that plan has to be executed. And the execution of that plan with regard to what government needs to do, with regard to what the philanthropic sector needs to do, with regard to what the private sector needs to do, is largely predicated on our ability to effectively, organize residents so that they know that there is real voice and real backing behind the plan, right? And numbers will speak. So I encourage all of you who have not yet, excuse me, signed up for one of the groups to do so and to participate, fully in this process, because it is a process, I think, of building solidarity, commonality, common voice and understanding, and putting in place working relationships and partnerships that can survive this particular planning process. There are 11 working groups, as you can see: housing, small business development, healthcare, youth, seniors, and family support, cooperatives, public safety, workforce development, education, transportation, arts and culture, and sustainable environment and energy. So the working group schedule is as follows. All meetings will be from 6 to 7:30, with the exception of the September 29th meeting that I'll talk about in a few minutes, that will run from 10 to noon. So June 9th is our kickoff. It is the co-facilitator orientation. You will receive flyers for those of you who are interested in becoming co-facilitators of the various subcommittees and be able to sign up there. As Mustafa said, we hope to have, co-facilitators that are both from the steering committee and residents from the community. So please sign up for those. We'll sort those, and once we get the time preferences, the time availability of those of you who are interested in being co-facilitators, then we will be able to divide the 11 groups up into two groups 1 through 6 and groups 7 through 11. And our thinking is that there will be people, residents, who will want to be part of and participate in a couple of different groups, and this schedule will permit you to do so, with only half of the working groups meeting 1 week and the other half meeting the next week. So June 19th is the orientation. The 16th we'll have the first working group session, which will focus on a SWOT analysis. This is an opportunity for residents and individuals to talk from their vantage point of being experts in the community and with regard to their engagements in the community and the work that they do, in identifying the strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities and threats that our communities, that your community is facing. And so the SWOT analysis is going to be an opportunity, I think, to really kind of dive into how members of the subcommittee see the community responding or not responding to issues of housing, healthcare, so forth and so on, depending on what group you're in. The following week, we'll follow up with the second group of subgroups. They will meet, and then we'll transition into July, where we'll look at the SWOT results and identify priorities. That'll be the major goal of both of those sessions in July, on July 14th and July 21st. September 15th, all groups will meet to really come up with recommendations based on, the SWOT analysis, based on the identification of priorities. And those recommendations will then, be shared on the 29th with the steering committee, where each subgroup will have 10 minutes to present their recommendations and to share with the larger group. Across this period of time, we'll have students that will be supporting the co-facilitators in each one of these sessions, taking notes, providing any administrative support. If there is spot researching that needs to be done with regard to particular issues that come up, then students will, provide that service as well. Toward the end of the summer, before the September 15th meeting where recommendations will be discussed, students will produce a white paper of kind of best practices related to particular issues that the subgroup has raised. So it'll be an opportunity for subgroup members to read the white papers and other, documentation that will be posted to the Google folders for each subgroup, and to really kind of come to that September 15th meeting prepared to really integrate, what has been learned from the SWOT analysis, the priorities identified, into a set of recommendations that reflect best practices in other jurisdictions and here in DC with regard to the recommendations that will end up going into the final plan, right? So my students will be, supported by also my colleague, Jennifer Lee, who's with the Harrison Institute at Georgetown, who I believe is on this call as well. And she and I will be working closely with the students and with the co-facilitators to make sure that the process runs as smoothly and as impactfully as possible, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cook. And again, appreciate your support and the wealth of expertise and knowledge that you come and that your students come with. So we're, it's a blessing really. And it just reflects how much expertise that we have in the community itself that we need to continue to tap in. So having Georgetown Law School be a key partner is important. Before I ask if there's any questions, I'm going to leave those to the end. I want to acknowledge David Bauer, who's on the call, who is a vice president at Enterprise Community Partners. Dave, we talked the other day, we had the update, but it's just to really acknowledge you and also talk about just the core work that you guys are doing with us as a partner and in your role as providing technical assistance for the project.
Good morning, Mustafa and everyone. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. It's good to be here. Good to see everyone and excited about the reports that we're hearing, both from David and from Professor Cook. Just very briefly, yeah, we're excited. Our team, our folks are plugging in, have started to do interviews with some of the small businesses as part of the small business assessment and are continuing to schedule some interviews. They've had conversations with David, I think, and folks in the data analysis committee. And are going to continue to do that and giving some input there in terms of some of the questions, and are also looking at scheduling up some even interviews with some residents and some of the properties that we own and manage around starting some of the resident interview process. So there are a lot of moving pieces. We'll be looking to engage also with the housing committee and a couple other committees, but I'm excited about the work and looking forward to continuing to be in collaboration with everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Can you give us some of your perspective on how what we're doing with this planning process and what it fits into the national scene in terms of where the movement's at around community development?
Yeah, it was interesting you asked that question, Mustafa. I was literally in Baltimore yesterday and having conversations conversations with some senior staff and folks from various platforms. We were in kind of southwest part of Baltimore and talking with some stakeholders there who are looking to do in some way similar things. And I was actually sharing with them the notion of bringing lessons back and forth in some ways, right? Some lessons from what they are doing in Southwest Baltimore in terms of really grounded community engagement, intentionality around community engagement, and kind of vice versa, right? Bringing some lessons from what is being attempted with this collaboration. So I think there's certainly a move afoot in some of our colleagues who work around the country around the notion of community engagement, the racial equity components, the intentionality about that. What we've heard Professor Cook talk to also in terms around like cooperative ownership, right, wealth building and the like. There's a move around that. So this notion of the kind of authentic and intentional engagement of residents, what does that mean? What does that look like? Who are the stakeholders? How are they engaged? And how do you do this over a long run and have real impact? So there's a move afoot here, and I think what's happening in Ward 8 is in some ways right in the pocket on that. If I can use a DC go-go term, right? We're right in the pocket on that. So it's exciting, and literally was mentioning this effort yesterday to some folks in Baltimore.
Okay, well, thanks, David, and we appreciate again your support, and we're excited about having enterprise community partners at the table because you're so highly recognized in the area of community development. So I thank you for that. I also want to just mention the emerging role of the family success centers are looking to play. We see the family success centers that the city government has implemented. There's 5 in Ward 8. As being really the core of this planning process, and we're having discussions with the leadership in each of the centers so that we can make sure that the residents are fully engaged. We're looking to make sure that participation in the family success centers, as well as the neighborhood associations, really are, as our community advisors, are really connect to this process. So I just wanted to establish that. And we have about 5 minutes for question and answer before I introduce Ms. Russo to talk about the update on the hospital. So anybody have any questions or concerns or anything on any of the updates at this point in time? Okay, that gives us more time to ask Ms. Russo to present. And we're going to ask her to talk about the update, and then we're going to save some time at the end for any questions and answers. So Ms. Russo, can you give us an update, please?
Absolutely. And good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mustafa, for the invitation today. And I look forward to engaging with the steering committee on the important work that you're doing. So just to kind of give an overview of the project, the district is investing $375 million to construct the new hospital and ambulatory center on the St. Elizabeth's East campus. The investment will support or create nearly 2,000 construction jobs and 550 permanent jobs within that hospital and ambulatory center. We have selected the architect and construction partners. HOK and McKissick are our architect partners, and Turner and MCN joint venture are the construction partners that have been selected for the project. As you know, we presented at the ANC 8C in April. We did receive a letter of support for the project from the commission, which we are very grateful for. We will plan on the hospital design being submitted to the Commission on Fine Arts this summer, and that work is continually progressing at a nice pace. Construction will begin the spring of 2022, with the hospital opening in 2024. The construction and the operations of the hospital will follow the district's CBE and force source requirements, which is really important, I think, for the vision and the goals of the steering committee. In terms of the additional ambulatory assets that will be invested in Ward 7 and 8, UHS will invest $75 million over the next 10 years in Ward 7 and 8. It will at a minimum include 2 additional urgent care centers opening up as soon as possible, one in Ward 7 and one in Ward 8. The urgent care in Ward 8 is going to be located at Mapleview Flats. It is scheduled to open in December of 2021. Just for everyone's knowledge, the square footage of that urgent care location is a little over 3,000 square feet, but there still is 5,000 square feet available at Mapleview Flats for Class A retail. We are very close to the selection for our second site in Ward 7, but have not solidified and agreed upon a site yet. I also think that it's important to talk about the hiring preferences as well as other jobs that will be coming from this investment. As part of our public-private agreement with the city for this new development, we will be giving priority to hiring DC residents in order to help support the DC community. We recognize that the new hospital has an opportunity to improve the health of residents in Ward 7 and 8 by providing access to not only quality health care, but also, which is important for this steering committee, access to long-term employment opportunities. We will pursue partnerships with the district's workforce, health, economic development, public and higher education agencies, as well as community-based organizations serving Ward 7 and 8, so we can prepare qualified district residents for employment at the hospital and in health profession fields. We also want to make sure that the steering committee is aware that part of this agreement, there is a requirement that 51% of hired employees are district residents. This is part of the first source agreement. The workforce development plan for this new hospital and ambulatory network will give preferential hiring to district residents who meet the required expectations and the capabilities to perform the roles. This is why the workforce development and the work that you all are doing is so vitally important to the success of this project. The given preferential hiring and training and education pipeline for DC residents is expected to have a significant portion of the employees hired to be district residents. So we continue to strive to engage with you all as we prepare our residents and our community for employment. And then lastly, to just kind of give an overview, big picture, since this is the Economic Development Steering Committee for Ward 8, I think it's important to look at that overall, the entire east of the Anacostia River Healthcare Project that I just gave a summary on, including the 2 urgent cares, the new hospital, and the ambulatory pavilion, is anticipated to generate more than 5,000 new jobs. So this is a huge economic stimulus for Ward 8, and we are so pleased to be a partner with the city and a partner with you all as we strive to make this project a reality for the community. So with that, Mustafa, very high level, happy to take questions and engage in a dialogue around this project.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kim, and we appreciate your support, and we see you as a real member and part of our partner, because I think where we're emerging is recognition that for all this to work, we all have to work together. I mean, there's, it has to be seamless, and we have to see ourselves as, moving in the same direction. So that being said, what is the best mechanism at this point for our planning process to really connect with the emergence of the hospital in the way that we can begin to develop those relationships and begin to understand how we can support each other's agenda?
Well, I found it very interesting, as you heard, having not seen the presentation for today. Our expectations that we partner with already existing partnership, existing organizations and businesses around the workforce development, health, economic, housing, all of those components are really important for the vitality of this project, as well as the vitality for the Ward 8. So my perspective is I appreciate engaging in this steering committee because I obviously get a lot of thoughts in terms of what you're doing, but I think our engagement, I have some of my team on the call in leading a couple of your work streams and engaging in workforce development, and where we see there are some definite gaps in knowledge as well as the skilled worker to perform some of the jobs at the hospital, is going to, I think, be vital even for the steering committee to be successful. So I think that partnership and really engaging, me and my team where we can be useful in saying, well, this is where we think we have a void in terms of licensed or non-licensed positions. This is the skill that's required. How do we partner with UDC and some of the other partnerships that are already doing phenomenal work in workforce development to meet the need of those 5,000 jobs that we think are created? The other aspect of this is we know there are a number of certified businesses that we are going to need to contract with to do services for the hospital. And that is another means of partnership and engagement on helping us understand, your community much better than we will ever know your community. And we're going to have to lean on you to understand where and what talent and organizations already exist within Ward 8 so that we can give them the contracts and really engage with them on the services that are going to be needed for the hospital.
Sounds excellent. And this was the thinking when we began to start this process. How can we add value to this, what we were looking to see happening in the community? So going forward, if you have a staff person that you want to make the lead point person, that I could make sure that we're passing on information, updates to them to keep you guys in the loop. That would be very helpful, because I know that you have a lot on your plate, and so if you have someone who can really keep you as connected as possible, that would be to our advantage.
I appreciate it, Mustafa. And if I can make it, I will. And if you need me present, like today, it was like, we really want you there? I will do all I can to make myself available. But I do want to just express, our commitment, but this project is moving fast and furious.
Okay.
We are already, we're presenting to the Commission on Fine Arts this summer, and we are proceeding quickly, on the design, conceptual designs to get approval, given the historic nature of the site, right? And we are taking all of that into consideration because it is so important for the community, but also for the historic nature. So I will get with my team and obviously have a point of contact. We have various stakeholders within my team that are engaged, and we'll make sure we have the right person identified, Mustafa.
All right, and we'll make the same commitment to you guys that anything you need from us, any kind of way we can be supportive, it's just a matter of letting us know. Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And as we're moving through the project, I can say we probably don't know what we need yet. We are going to be assessing that, and we're not always going to have all the answers, and we are going to do our best to engage with you all so that we are making sure we're engaging with the community. We know healthcare, but we, again, like I said earlier, we don't know your community, and so we're gonna have to lean on you all, to understand that, but also to engage with you. There, when you look at new hospitals, for those of you engaged, hospitals are an economic hub for communities because they do create not only jobs within those facilities, but there are so many downstream jobs and investments that create that synergy and economic hub. And that's really, I think, what is super exciting about this project.
It is. Okay,
Yeah, and
that being said,
Mustafa,
I was going to ask you, Tamara, if you had a question.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah. I just want to jump in and say, thank you, Kim, for coming and for the update. It sounds like things are moving really, really quickly. And there is great alignment, I think, in between the workforce development subcommittee, the health subcommittee, the economic development subcommittee. And so I think connecting with your people in those areas will be really critical. I know at one point in time in the past, you had talked a bit about the community engagement project and making sure that you're connecting with the right community organizations. And so I think that this group really represents many of those. And so as Mustafa said, we'd love that ongoing input, engagement, and connection with your team. So thank you for both the commitment, the investment, and really acknowledging the importance of having community residents and community members at the table.
So I so appreciate that, Tamara. And I am fortunate enough to have the wonderful Courtney Snowden as my partner in crime on my community engagement expectations. And she really is, our primary liaison in terms of our community engagement. And I don't know if Courtney would like to say a few words about the community engagement plan, but she works very closely with, my two right-hand people around this project. So Courtney, I see you've just popped on if you'd like to say a few words about the engagement plan. Is she not on? I thought she was on.
She might have dropped off because I don't see her name.
Okay, all right. So she was on quickly, but
Yeah,
so
we'll
she's
follow
on.
up because we
Yeah.
know Ms. Snowden, and she is someone who has been very connected to the community. So I'm excited about her participation, and definitely want to be engaged with her also. So thanks. And so, any questions? Anybody? Dr. Cook, I know that you
Yes,
had.
we have, I'm sorry, we have Al has raised his hand
Okay.
to ask a question.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Good
You
morning.
ran, Ms. Russo, you ran through you said you have already picked a construction GC to actually do the construction already?
I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. Mr. Swells, could you say that again?
You said you already picked the architect for McKinsey and McKinsey, which is a
Correct.
Black architect firm. We know them. You also said that you also have picked a construction team.
Correct.
What's the name of that?
That is Turner MCN joint venture.
Turner and MC. How many
Correct.
outreaches did y'all have before y'all actually selected the contractor?
So there was very specific contract selections that were driven through our partnership with the city. Ultimately, the city administrator's office, along with UHS, there was an entire process. I'm not as intimately engaged in that process, but there was outreach to the community as well as a process for feedback.
So they actually asked CBEs to send in numbers to the GC?
Absolutely.
Oh, can you send me that email? Because I never received it.
I don't know about an email. I know there was outreach and a call for RFPs. Again, we followed the process, but I don't know if
RFCs for the primes or RFCs for subcontractors?
not for subcontractors. We've not done any
How did the
subcontractors.
subcontractors come up with their numbers to give a proposal if they didn't
Yeah.
talk to the CBEs?
So they will be following the same requirements of first source for CBEs. So Turner and MCN will be managing the subcontractor engagement. So that has not been done yet. They are just the general.
How do they give y'all a proposal if they don't know what the numbers are?
Well, I'm not going to go into all of the specific construction details around that.
How much money is being spent there for the hospital?
$375 million.
And you don't want to go into the numbers.
So, sir, I'm just saying that
Sir,
the process was in.
that's a lot of money.
I can provide, there's a website that has all the RFQ information that I'll provide in the chat. And it has the short list of all the people who bid. And I'll provide all the information for you, sir.
So I think that the website's on the chat now. So Alfred, I think your questions are well taken, and we're going to look at more detail in some of the subcommittee activities, and hopefully we'll get more deeper into the kind of concerns you have. So we appreciate your question.
There was another question in the chat, I think, around whether the space will be leased. Let me see, where was that?
Oh, there's one more before that. It was
sorry.
It was if there are any concessions made for the current DC safety net physicians at the POB at UMC.
So we have had some discussions with those primary care physicians, and we'll continue engaging them. So they'll be given the rights just like any physician that wants to lease within the medical office building. If they want to partake, it's absolutely, it would be a pleasure to have them.
And I think the part two of that question is, will the District of Columbia own the lease rent for the POB at the new St. Elizabeth site?
On the lease rent. So the District of Columbia owns the land And through the agreement, Universal Health Services is the general manager of that project to ensure the fiscal sustainability.
Actually, it was my question, and my question is, who will get the money from the rent? Is that the District of Columbia or GW?
Well, GW won't have any of the money from the rent because it's a separate project. This project is not owned and operated by GW Hospital. It is a partnership between Universal Health Services and the District of Columbia. So GW will not be receiving any of the funds from the leased payment.
Will UHS receive the rent from the POB lease?
No, this is a partnership. So it's a city and UHS partnership. So no money is going directly to UHS.
Where will the money go?
The money will go to support the operations of the hospital.
So it will go back to the hospital.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, well, Ms. Russo, thank you for coming and sharing us. We're excited about where we're at with the hospital, and we'll be creating opportunities in the future for you to come and give us future updates. So thank you for being on today.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the last 10 minutes of the process, since we do have some time, Dr. Cook, can you go through the different committees and maybe just give an overview of what we anticipate these committees looking at? And Jennifer, I know your focus has been around housing, so it'd be nice to hear some feedback around your sense of what the housing subcommittee would be focused around. So Professor Cook.
Okay. All right, give me a second here. Okay, so with all of these committees, we want a segment of the discussion to really focus on the various segments of the community and how eventually recommendations can speak to bringing those who are in crisis out of crisis into a better place of stability and eventually to thriving within the community. So we want to take those indicia seriously, and we think it's important that conversations kind of focus and orient themselves around that scale. With regard to housing, Jennifer Lee, who works in the Harrison Institute. Jennifer, do you have any comments with regard to housing?
No, yeah, I think I'll just kind of cheat and kind of punt to what you said, Professor Cook, at the outset, which is this is very much meant to be a community-driven process. So until we do a SWOT analysis on housing and see the results, I think we're working on a blank check. But I anticipate that once we have a better sense of the housing needs of the specific Ward 8 communities, we'll be looking at sustainable solutions for long-term permanent affordable housing. And we, I think, very much intend to cast a very broad and wide lens on this issue. So looking past the very dry 30% AMI statistics that local governments tend to use and looking at total housing costs and total housing needs. So housing as it relates to not only affordability, but also housing as it relates to healthcare and transportation, all the different factors that inform permanent and sustainable housing for the areas. I think we're also going to be looking at solutions on building the racial wealth gap through kind of the way that housing can be part of tools like community benefits agreements, community investment funds, land trusts, and so forth. And I think we have some really great partners in this group who will be able to provide some additional technical assistance on that, in addition to our students over the summer.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Small business development, one of the reasons why small business development is difficult in any community is because the failure rates are, quite frankly, very high. I mean, nationally, within the first year, you'll have, over 20% of all startup businesses will fail. Within 5 years, it's 50%. In 10 years or so, close to 70% of all startup businesses would have failed, right? And that's across racial and cultural and geographic boundaries, right? So we know that it's very difficult for a business to succeed in every climate, in any climate. When it comes to Black and Brown communities and under and disinvested communities, those obstacles are even more severe and the challenges are even greater. And so a small business development group will, in part, take a very candid look at those challenges, those impediments, and try to figure out what kind of ecosystem that better assures success can be created that will allow our businesses to have a better chance of surviving and doing better than that. A lot of the research, indicates thus far that, the lack of capital is, of course, a huge reason. Small businesses are often started because people have wealth in their homes, or they have inherited wealth, or they have surplus income that they've saved and therefore can use to start a business. When you're talking about under and disinvested communities, those sources of wealth needed to start businesses are lacking, right? They are subjected to restrictions that other communities simply don't have. And so how, with that reality, do you bring the public sector, the private and philanthropic sectors together to create bridges to opportunity where we can create more businesses in our community than we presently do? It requires capital. It requires technical and educational support. It requires an ecosystem. So this committee, along with the Cooperatives Committee, is going to be taking a look at those kinds of issues. Healthcare, vitally important across the board. As we know, one of the things that this subcommittee might take a look at is, the movement toward mobile healthcare, decentralized healthcare. We'll have a hospital here that helps significantly. Having access to medical facilities will help significantly with regard to bridging the gap. But yet, a lot of people still will not go to doctors, will not avail themselves of those opportunities for historic reasons and other reasons. There's been a movement afoot in community development to think of healthcare as being very decentralized, and mobile units and individual organizations and churches being more involved in health screening and facilitating access to healthcare in ways that are beneficial to communities. And so the healthcare subcommittee undoubtedly will be looking in part at those kinds of remedies and those kinds of solutions. Youth, seniors, and family support, crucially important, right? We don't go anywhere without creating a healthy environment and productive environment for our children and for our families, right? Thinking about that in a very kind of systemic way, particularly in its connection to these other subjects within the working groups, is of vital importance. Public safety as well is an important thing that we've got to look at. As we know, the police budgets in major cities have, ballooned over the past decade or so, with, the Los Angeles police budget being over $2 billion, a year. And I think DC's police budget being somewhere close to $500 million, which on a per capita basis compared to Los Angeles is about the same. We are now in a discussion, around the nation about re-envisioning public safety and how public safety from the ground up, from the community up, needs to be the process of thinking about our relationship to law enforcement as opposed to the top down. And so I'm sure that this subcommittee will look at those kinds of things. Workforce development, we have a problem in our country because workforce development programs and monies have been, not effectively deployed, in that we have gone through a generation of workforce development programs that train people for jobs that don't exist, right? We give them certificates, we give them certifications, but where are the jobs at the end of that process? Workforce development best practices now looks at connection between training and certification on the one hand, and actual jobs on the other, an apprenticeship style model of workforce development. So a subcommittee that kind of looks at these issues and range of solutions that will really take a workforce development or an apprentice approach to workforce development will be part of that. And the same is true of education, transportation, arts and culture. Placemaking is a huge, important part of what we do in community development now, because communities have soul, they have culture. It really is the process by which people have a sense of belonging in community. They feel connected to one another in community, and they feel connected to place within community, right? In a rapidly changing, gentrifying city like DC, with this on the horizon with regard to Ward 8, one of the questions is, how do you use art and culture as a way of bringing people together, of creating a sense of cohesiveness, a sense of belonging in community that stamps the community with a sense of identity that people can be proud of, can build on with regard to increasing solidarity and the opportunities to work together. So look, the gist of it is that, you know, there's a lot going on in all of these fields in community development. And these subcommittees have been, I think, well chosen by the steering committee to really create a foundation for the thinking about the development of a very robust community, right? One that can have a sense of solidarity, purpose, and mission with regard to defining its own identity and its own trajectory moving forward. And so we're sure, as in most of these community planning processes, that what will happen is that there will be a lot of strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats that each subcommittee will in its own, you know, isolated sphere come up with that are, you know, similar to or the same as others, right? And that process, seeing that evolve and seeing it come to paper is very important with regard to creating a sense of, I think, common purpose with regard to the kinds of recommendations that can be put forth. All right, so that in a nutshell is some of the stuff that goes on in some of these committees, I think, that you have to look forward to with the support of our students and engagement across the summer. We hope to, you know, equip you with, you know, some of the best practices in other jurisdictions, what's done, what's worked, what has not worked, why it's worked, why it's not worked, and leave it to the subcommittees to determine how to extract from this information, these annotated bibliographies and assessments and white papers, you know, what you want to focus on and how you want to pursue the vision. Is that what you had in mind, Mustafa? You're on mute.
Excellent. It was excellent. Yes.
Yes, it was excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to give people a sense of what was going to be available and how important this is going forward, because we're at a point now where we should be clear that what we're trying to do is come up with solutions. We're not just planning to plan. We want to come out with a planning document that really talks about what we need to do over the next 5, 10, 20 years to reposition the community. And these subcommittees are going to be the core of it. So we want to thank you for that. We're at 11 o'clock 01, and we want to keep true to our effort to keep this in an hour. I'd like to close out and thank everybody for being here. Tamara, you have anything else you want to say before we close out?
I just want to thank you again, Mustafa, for your leadership and just everyone who's at the table. We're, as Mustafa said, and as Kim said, we're all moving at a very fast pace. So get on board because the work, particularly at the subcommittee level, is going to be jumping off next week, and we have a very short window. So appreciate Dr. Cook, Professor Cook, and his team. Mustafa, really appreciate your leadership. Really thrilled about what's going on with the outreach and the communications team, as well as the planning team. So for those of you that are on the call, members, please join a subcommittee. We'll reach out to you if you haven't. And we just look forward to working over the summer and the next meeting coming up in June. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a fabulous weekend. And be safe, and we'll see you later next month.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye now.
Take care. Be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.